right, welcome back to what the series of videos I'm calling "Pressing Towards the Source Point," where I'm talking with creators Centaur Wave from Dirk Manning, and we have we have another one. We have Austin Allen Hamblin, and we're going to be talking about big guns and stupid rednecks.
Big gun, stupid rednecks. Yeah, you got it.
All right. Well, before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, both as a comic book reader, like when did you start? What was your first comic you read? And as a professional.
So as a reader, I started kind of the way a lot of people did, with just picking up random singles from spinner racks, not at grocery stores because that had kind of passed, but in bookstores. So Walden's books we used to have in the mall, and I would read a lot of like Bongo, the Simpsons comics and Futurama. And I wasn't a reader. I didn't like to read. I was reluctant to do it. And my uncle got all of his nieces and nephews one year a gift card to Barnes and Noble, and I was like, "What am I going to buy? I don't like to read." And I bought reprints of the original Fantastic Four run, the Marvel Masterworks Volume One. It was the Stanley and Jack Kirby stuff, and I read those, and I was hooked. That was. I mean, it was just something about it, seeing his artwork and all this, weird stuff. I was probably about 10 years old at the time, and that is what made me dive in. And now I am an insane avid reader. So to think that there was a time that I didn't like to read is crazy. And that's how
I can kind of see your bookshelves behind you.
Yes, this whole room. I was like, okay, I'll have a library room in my house, but then now it's expanded to bookshelves in the other parts of the house. But that was how I came to it as a reader. And then I remember my like 8th grade graduation present from my mom was a graphic novel of the Marvel Comics event Civil War, and that was what turned me into a weekly reader. I got caught up on monthly titles, and then it became a Wednesday Warrior after that. I was lucky enough that my dad would drive me to the comic book store because the closest one from me is a half hour away. But my parents were always super supportive, so my dad would drive me every Wednesday, and then now here we are with mountains of long boxes and bookshelves full of trades.
And so, what inspired you to get into the industry and start making your own? And
I always played with toys growing up, right? Like every kid does. But I would do like stories with them. It wasn't just this character is fighting this character. It would be this guy stole this guy's wife, and that's why they're fighting. And then my room would be the universe, right? So there'd be figures together in different places across my room, and it was, well, this is going on over here in this part of the country, well, this is going on over here, and it was all one big story. And I was really getting into reading comics at around that time, and I was like, you know what, this would make a really good comic. And then once I started writing that was probably about the time I was 12 or 13, and I just kept going. I was like, this rules. This is so fun, making up stuff in my head.
And what have I know you sent me. You've done some other work in comics before this one, so tell us a little bit about that. And
Yeah, so I got my first comic out when I was a senior in high school. I did just a collection of short comics, and I got it printed locally, and I walked through my tiny high school with a box of comics, and everybody knew me as the de facto comic guy. I went to a tiny Catholic school. I was the only person that read comics or liked pro wrestling or any of those things at my school. And so I would walk through the hallway, and like in between classes, people were handing me money and I was handing them comics. And it wasn't just students though, like there was teachers and like the office lady and the janitor. I ended up selling out of like 100 books. I got 100 books for the first print run, and I sold out the first day, just taking them to school. And I kept on going from there. I've done tons of anthologies over the years. I got to write a short story that was published by Top Cow, which was actually the original short story for Big Good Stupid Rednecks that morphed into this. and I have self-published autobiographical comics that I poorly draw called Small If You Farted, the sci-fi series called The Adventures of Punkin' Rock, and stuff on Kickstarter. Kind of been all over the place. I like to tell people that I've written a bunch of comics that you've never heard of.
Okay. So, tell us about. Give us the overview of the book and the elevator pitch.
Aliens are abducting rednecks and forcing them into laser gun gladiatorial combat for intergalactic cable's newest hit show, Big Guns, Stupid Rednecks. I can't get it any more concise than that. I've had a while to get this.
Seems like you got it nailed pretty down to.
Yes, and I found this. I don't know if you've ever seen The Office, but like when Kevin is like, "Why use many when few make same statement?"
Yeah.
It's like it's true though.
Me go see world. Are you going to see world? Are you going to see blue?
So I really tried to get it out as quick as that. But it's not one, like, I love stories that will make a difference in people's lives, or serious stories. I totally get that. That is a very valid thing. But sometimes you get off work and you get home and you just want to turn on a Michael Bay movie because you can't think, you just want to have some fun. And that's what this is. It's just a fun, action-packed rednecks fighting rednecks in space.
So, what was the inspiration behind the story?
So I really like the villain from X-Men called Mojo, and Mojo will I think when he originally was introduced, he'd taken Nightcrawler, and he was forcing Nightcrawler and other creatures from all these different realms, planes of existence, multiverse to fight each other for his cable network. And I always thought that was a great idea. Like, it's just kind of fun. But then I'm like, what if tweak that a little bit? What if rednecks with lasers? And I felt like rednecks worked the best because so I live in Iowa. I grew up in Iowa to this day, tiny rural community. My dad was a farmer. My grandpa was a farmer, like all of that. And let me tell you, if there are not so many people I know that if they were in this scenario, and like, it wouldn't be aliens were forcing them to fight. They'd be like, "Give me the gun. I'm tougher than him," and they would be excited to do it. So I think this is a real thing that could happen.
So, who are the main characters, and kind of what's the central plot, or
Yeah. So in the beginning, you're following Clint, and he's a retired detective, and there are a bunch of unexplained disappearances in the southern parts of the United States, and he doesn't really care until his white trash younger brother disappears. And he had spent his life trying to get away from his younger brother, and he wanted to make something of himself. He didn't want to associate with his partying, beer guzzling, chaw spitting brother. But his sister says, "Please, I want my baby to know, both of his uncles." And so once he starts looking into it, he finds out his brother owed some money to some, rough people, and probably just skipped town because this was a good way, I'm disappeared. And Clint ends up getting abducted by aliens and finds himself in the arena for Big Gun Stupid Rednecks, and his brother Clay is the reigning champion with 27 kills. And that's kind of projects it into the.
So it is. Am I correct that it's a complete graphic novel? You've completed it now. It's 100 pages, 3 issues.
Yep. So yeah, there was a single issue direct market release through a different publisher, and now Source Point Press has collected all 3 issues, and then I always when I'm one of those people that buys the singles and then buys the trade. So I wanted to do more things for the trade because I don't, as a consumer, if I'm buying it again, I want there to be some new stuff. So there's a new short comic story in this. There's pinups. There's behind the scenes stuff. Um, I've got the original pitch pages and a forward and an afterward, and it's a really, really nice collection of everything. So you can just pick this up. It's a one and done thing, and you get a complete story, which is pretty rare nowadays.
Right. So, um, is anybody else working on it with you, art wise and colorist and all
Yeah.
those fun other duties?
So I wrote the book, and then the art and colors are by an artist from Brazil named Mariana Maria. She is a SCAD alumni, and she actually is currently in Italy, in I don't know what it's called, but in some kind of art program, and so she's studying more art there. So hopefully, when she gets done with that, we can work on some more stuff together. And then the word balloons and lettering are done by my friend John Ira Thomas, who is actually he's a more prolific writer than I am. He has been doing comics since before I was born, and he's a local to me guy. And I met him, and we really hit it off. And he kind of has been lettering most of my projects, right about the last 7 or 8 years, and we're super close. So we will be doing a signing on release day for this in Iowa City, where we will both be dressed up like rednecks.
And how did you get connected with the artist initially?
So this was such a weird deal to get this book made. It was honestly a battle. It has been over 10 years in the making to get this here. There was when I originally had started, I had hired someone to do some concept art and then hopefully pitch the book with them. They kind of didn't really do it. Took a long time. It was kind of sucked, and then eventually it was a situation sucked, and then later I worked with somebody else on a incarnation of this and pitched it around, and nobody was into it. And then I got to do a short story at Top Cow that was drawn by Donnie Tran, which was the lead-in story to Big Gun Stupid Rednecks, and I did that there, and it was received really well. The reviews for it were great. I was really happy with it, and he crushed it. And I used those pages from our story together as a pitch to publishers for a full series, and it got accepted, but Donnie was not going to be able to draw it. So I did a open call because I had a publishing deal lined up for the single issues, but I didn't have anybody to draw it. I had a script ready. And so kind of put it out and got a bunch of different messages. And then me and Mariana just clicked, and it worked out awesome. And, now we're here all these years later. So.
Do you remember what initially kind of drew you towards her and her art style?
Yeah, it was so she has I'm trying to think of the way to word this. It's not a cookie cutter style. It's not that house style where, hey, everybody draws like this. And she colors her own work and had a lot of pieces that she had colored. And I thought, and when I had talked to her, she's like, I would color this book, as well as drawing it. And I'm like, I think her colors would really make it pop. And it did. In the first issue, when they are searching for clay, or when Clint is searching for clay, the colors are dark and scary and kind of roughneck. And then once they get into space, it's colorful. Pinks and fluorescent stuff, and it really nailed it. I could not have asked for a better person to work with on this.
Now you said you started this 10 years ago, and kind of looking back on it now, do you see how you've evolved as a writer?
Yeah, I'm honestly glad that it took this long to get here, because I think it was a great idea that when I had it, I was not equipped to tell it in a way that would do it justice. I just did not have the chops or the experience. Um, and while I think that the other incarnations that I had done and tried to do, they weren't bad, not at all. But I think this one is just far superior, because I just, I had put in so many more hours creating. So, if I would tell me 10 years ago, hey, this is going to take 10 years, younger me would be like, oh, what? And would probably be, but like it's easy to say looking back now, but I'm glad that it worked out that way.
And how did you go about, I guess, honing your, your skills and, you know, working to, become a better writer?
I have always been a learn by doing person. Um, I I have nothing against formal training and education at all. But for me, I learn better by failing, and I failed a lot. Um, I met people that were doing what I wanted to do. When I was younger, I met people that were making comics for a living, and I kept seeing them and I picked their brains about things. And then I started getting things made, and I was like, hey, I want to be better. What about this is working? What about this is not? And the big person for that in my career has been Phil Hester. And I remember when I was 17, before my first comic came out, I had asked him to go over it with me. And he said, okay, so, we'll meet this night for supper. He goes, bring all the pages of the comic printed out on copy paper and a Sharpie. And I did, and we sat next to each other, and he went over every page with a Sharpie with me. And he taught me about things that at the time I'm like, I don't know that this really applies to me, like talking about the lettering and the art, but it really did, because it changed the way that I think about everything. And he went over each page and, made notes and wrote things on the side. We talked about time shifts, about place shifts, about leading the eye with dialogue, not burying the lead, all these things. And I still have all those pages in a binder in the closet back there. And I learned so much from that. I made a lot of things that were good that could have been a lot better, but that was the way that I learned, that I kept getting better, because I just kept doing it. I don't know if it's that I'm driven or that I'm stubborn. I think the real answer is that I can't not do this. I have to. It's some kind of mental illness that I have that I can't shake, but here I am.
And are there any writers, be they, in the comic book industry or, literature larger, or even, in movies and films, that kind of inspire you, your writing style, or challenge you to push your own personal envelope?
Oh, absolutely. I think that I get a lot out of Kevin Smith's work, and I mean his films and his comics, uh, and also his like DIY. I'm gonna do this type thing, because he kind of did the same thing. He's just like, look, I'm gonna bet on myself, and I'm gonna go do this and learn while I'm doing it. But I liked, when you look at his stories, they are pulling from the things that he knew that maybe people didn't like Clerks, right? Like he had worked in a gas station, and people like, how interesting could a story be about, two guys in a gas station? Here we are, 3 movies, animated series, how many comics later, right? So like I did a comic about rednecks, because my family are rednecks and I've been surrounded by them my whole life. He's a big one, I think.
Do you have a particular favorite, comic that he's worked on that you kind of have a go or is your go to?
I really I like Quiver. I think his take on Green Arrow is the best Green Arrow comic. It kind of subverts expectations and um, picks on some things that comics do repeatedly and turns it on its side and pokes fun at it, but also while making it a plot device.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so, how did you get hooked up with Dirk and Source Point Press?
Oh man, so I actually met Dirk in 2012 at I was still in high school at the time. It was 2011 or 2012. There was a little convention in Illinois that maybe had 2 years that it existed. But my sister, I have two older siblings, they're 10 and 11 years older than me. My older sister lived out there. And so I was like, oh, cool. It was the week of spring break for me. So I could go out there, I could go to a comic convention, hang out with my sister. And I had been reading Dirk's stuff at the time. I was reading Right or Wrong on Newsarama. Uh, and then I had read Nightmare World as well at
Hmm.
that time. And I went and talked to him at the show, and it was very nice and very professional, and gave me, he treated me like a person, not like a
Hmm.
17-year-old kid. And then years later, in 2016, I would intern for First Comics and Devil's Due. And when I did, he was doing a comic there. And while most of my internship was remote, I was at home, doing things online, emails, internal deadline schedules, social media. I did help out at some conventions, and Dirk was at those conventions. And so I got to know him a little closer there, hang
Hmm.
out after show. And Source Point Press, I have known about for the longest time, like almost since the beginning. I've had some friends that worked on some of the early books that they put out, and I have been trying for years to get a book through them, and I came close a lot of times, and I had put this Big and Stupid Rednecks had come out through Band of Bards, the single issues, and then the Diamond collapse happened, and they didn't really have a way to put out a trade, and they're like, we kind of, and they weren't going to, so I negotiated with them to get the rights back early. And when I got the rights back early, I pitched it around, and I like made my list. I'm like, who could I send this to? And I'm like, you know what, actually Source Point Press would be like a perfect place for this. And I had met Josh at C2E2 years before, and so then I send this in, and it gets accepted, and we get talking, and I'm like, I don't know if you guys remember me, or not. And they're like, of course we remember. I'm also 6'4", Sasquatch looking weird dude, but I just assume that nobody remembers me. And they're like, yes, of course we remember you. So it's a very full circle thing, and I really like
Hmm.
full circle moments. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, uh, besides, the current book, are you, not that you have to reveal anything if you don't want to, but are you currently working on anything new, or just kind of trying to get this in order and then, see where things take you?
I have like a billion things going on at all times. I In a few weeks here, I'll be launching a Kickstarter for Hospice the Collector, and Hospice is a shared universe horror thing, and so I'm doing a single issue story within that universe for Orange Cone Productions.
I,
And
I know Travis.
okay, so yeah, I had written for a couple of the different anthologies that they put out,
Uh-huh. The
and
Cthulhu and
I did a Cthulhu and a Holiday Spirits.
okay.
And then so I got that in a couple weeks, and actually next week I start at Comic Book Resources. I'm going to be a staff writer there, so I'll be covering news and doing interviews and articles for them. I have a novel that is being copy edited right now, and hopefully I'll get to start querying agents soon. And then yeah, I got a bunch of like anthologies awaiting release, and you know gotta cast out as many nets and lines as I can to hopefully catch a fish.
Well, if you want to, I mean, we do over on Comic Watch do a weekly crowdfunding roundup. If you want to talk a little bit about the campaign that you're going to be doing there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, go ahead and tell us about the book. That, I mean, because hospice is kind of like a ongoing, larger, connected universe. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. So there is the overlying theme in each hospice comic is there are these hospices that exist all over the world, and they are where the worst of the worst go to die. And because the worst of the worst people are the only people that are susceptible to being possessed by demons. So it's just like fit that into whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my Mine is called The Collector, and it is based off what Travis had put out an open call to pitch for season 2 of Hospice, and I was like, oh, I want in on this. This sounds great. And then I'm like, what should I do my story about? I'm like, I only know one person that died in a hospice, and I watched my cousin Alan die in a hospice, and I'm like, I should do a story about Alan. And this is going to sound very weird, but Alan, he passed away at 48 years old, and he was the biggest comic collector that I know. He had 40 years of collecting. He was a single guy. He'd amassed this massive collection. And when he passed away, he left his entire collection to me, which I read a lot. I've read a lot of things that I would have never read otherwise, because I wouldn't have tried them. But coming from his collection, I read them. And so I did it. And he read superhero comics and horror comics. So in The Collector, it is about how Alan, all the horrible acts that he did to create this giant comic book collection, through blackmail, and eventually murder. And he ends up in a hospice, and he is recruited. Instead of doing a demon, he is recruited to be a Grim Reaper, a collector of souls, and souls are one of one. So that's what Hospice the Collector is. It's a really weird thing, but it's I'm really proud for it. He would have loved it.
Yeah, I've seen the other campaigns on there, and know some of the creators who've been working on them on those too. So it's pretty cool that you're connected with them too.
Yeah, I get around, I guess.
You got to keep busy. What are you going to be offering for rewards?
Yeah, so we'll have 4 covers in total, and all of the original art for the covers will be up in the campaign. I will be offering my entire digital back catalog, which is 1,000 pages of comics that I've written over the years of finished stuff, and then obviously print digital copies of the book, stickers. We have a do you want to make comics Skype with me and the artist Trey Baldwin. So if you're interested in making comics, we'll hop on a call with you and answer whatever questions you have, and then you'll get copies of the book. I'm always happy to impart any I'm going to use the word wisdom lightly here, any wisdom that I have to anyone else, because I only got here because people helped me. Yeah.
So what's the big? Well, I know you talked about your work with with Phil Hester, but what kind of what's the biggest takeaway that you think you um, have have gotten?
So the biggest piece of advice that has got its way to me, and I don't know that there's actually 2 things that come to mind. I don't know that these would necessarily be true for everyone else, but they are for me. And the first one is to let things marinate. I have a tendency to get shot out of a cannon. I get really excited about something, and next thing you know, I'm dressing up like a redneck, filming videos and tractors, and That's a real thing. I get, and that's a good quality, but I got to rein it in a little bit because sometimes especially in the past, had maybe sent out things or to a collaborator or to whoever that weren't as fleshed out as they could have been because I didn't just take the time to sit with it for a little bit and really, and I don't mean like obsess over, but just let it sit in the background and then go back and relook at it. So that was a big one because I do get shot out of a cannon a lot. And then the other one is to trust my creativity. And that one's a harder one to explain. But I think has been a very important lesson for me to learn.
So, are you currently reading anything comic wise that you're really enjoying?
Well, me and everybody else are, of course, reading Absolute Batman because, it's great. I mean, I can't even
Yeah.
like. It's,
Aren't you required to?
yes, Absolute I've been very. I feel like the last 2 years I've been very DC heavy in my polls compared to years past. I mean, it's hard to say no to a Mark Waid superhero comic. I've really enjoyed the Justice League Unlimited stuff that he did. A lot of the DC KO books, the new Absolute line, with Lobo, Deathstroke. Oh, and there's another one, but I can't think of it.
Batwoman,
Yes.
and then they started Firestorm, which is awesome.
Isn't that Lemire too? Right?
yeah. It's like
Lemire.
you go in wanting to, you want to like it because it's Lemire, but you're like it's Firestorm, and then you're like,
right. But he can do it. He could that
yeah.
Off camera right here. So I collect original art, and Lemire is on my Mount Rushmore. I love him. I have a Sweet Tooth page hanging up right there because he's so great. At Feral, at Image, I really love that. Free Planet as well at Image. I could go on and on about stuff that I'm reading. I mean, I read a lot of manga as well. Chainsaw Man, just wrapped up and finished that. I have many thoughts about that, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut because anime fans can be pretty scary and manga fans, so I don't want to get anyone angry. But yeah, I read anything and everything. It's an obsession.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure that people know about the book or anything you're doing?
I am super active on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram. I also have a Substack newsletter that I update weekly. And my Substack isn't me just trying to sell you stuff. There's nothing more frustrating than email lists that I'm on that's just, hey, here's my new thing, buy this. Mine, I say that it's a lot of me trying to figure out things about myself in it. And so I will mention when I have things out and where you can support, but people have more value to me than just what money they spend on me. A big part of the things that I write about on there are mental health struggles and different things in life, because I think it's important to be honest about things that you go through, because you can potentially help someone that you might not even know not feel alone in the way that they are feeling about maybe the same scenario, maybe a similar scenario. And I'm super easy to find. I would tell you the link tree, but I won't. But if you just search my name, Austin,
I will include it in the video show notes and the article that I'll do up for Comic Watch.
Okay, perfect.
And see, there was one other. Oh, are you doing any shows?
Yes, Free Comic Book Day. I will be at the Core in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And then I'll be at Des Moines Comic Con, but I'll be roaming around. Ocon in Council Bluffs, Iowa, I will be a guest at. And then I have signings lined up for Big on Stupid Rednecks, but I haven't confirmed those yet. So I will be all over, but unsure when and where as of recording.
Sounds good. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time this evening to talk a little bit about the book, and it comes out in July. Am I correct?
July 22nd. Yep.
Okay. We'll be sure to keep that on the calendar for people. And yeah, it was great having you, and you're welcome back anytime. If you ever have any other projects you'd like to chat about, and we'll definitely will be following your Kickstarter when it launches over on our website. We do, like I said, we do the roundup every Saturday. So we'll make sure that it gets there and help you get the word out on that.
I appreciate that a ton. Thank you so much for having me. I really and putting up with my Budweiser hat and overalls.
Hey, it's perfectly fine, and so well, it was great having you, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you.